And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Bandits. This is the show where we talk about your United States Football League team, the Tampa Bay Bandits. My name is Yurika, and joining me, as always, for this amazing ride of football, that is the one and only Zach Blaine. What's good, my dude?
What is going on, man? Just excited to be back. It's been a whole week. I haven't really got to talk Bandits with you. I'm excited.
Well, with the draft that was all last week, we went into detail about every single player that the Bandits have drafted over 2 days. If you haven't checked out that episode, it's in this feed. Check it out, RBLR Bandits. We go over an hour talking about the offensive, the defensive guys, who the head coach is, what do the uniforms look like. All of that introductory information is right there. While you're there, though, however you're listening to this, if you're on Spotify, Google Play, if you're on Apple Podcasts, hit that little like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure that you get this content and all the other content that we do here at RBLR Sports in your inbox immediately as soon as it goes. We talk about the Rays. Zach Blaine is part of our Rays coverage. It's amazing. We talk about the Rowdies, who are about to kick off in about a week for their season as they are back-to-back Eastern Conference champions. You, of course, have back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in the Bolts. We cover them every single week. And, of course, the other football team in Tampa Bay, maybe you've heard of them, the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. We talk about each and every team that you love in Tampa Bay area, and all you got to do is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. But, Zach, enough of all that. What happened in the world of the United States Football League? And it's turning into kind of a topsy-turvy. There was a group naming themselves Real USFL LLC filing a lawsuit against the USFL saying that they still own the rights to all of this. Did you see this news brief that popped up?
Yeah, so I saw it. It instantly just brought panic to my whole soul for a minute. It's not something that I want to see through. I want this just to disappear, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's going to be a little bit of backlash with it, I think. So, look, there's some former owners or a group coming together and trying to say that, like, the United States Football League is trying to trade in on the nostalgia and the things, which is true. However, Fox Sports, or at least counsel to Fox Sports, has responded. They told USFL Newsroom, which is a really good site, and you should go check them out immediately. They said that, quote, the lawsuit filed yesterday by an entity formed just a week ago is completely without merit. The new USFL registered its intellectual property rights in 2011 and is excited to launch games on schedule April 16th. This 11th hour attempt to extract value from the exciting new USFL is utterly frivolous, and we are all exploring all options for redress. And it just it just goes to the thought that I had, which is like, guys, these guys abandoned all these trademarks 30 years ago. And to me, it just seems like sour grapes for guys looking for one more payday, because these are the Bandits and the Generals and the Maulers and all this stuff that were in 1984 or whatever, but you haven't done anything since then. Exactly.
And unfortunately, you have to keep a trademark up and going in order to defend it and keep it going. So could this? But Zach, I have to let. Is this the straw that is this the thread that gets pulled and derails the whole project?
It's the beginning of the end already. No, let's hope it's not. But I don't think it is. I think we'll get at least a few games in before anything happens.
We're hoping. I know we were talking off screen here. We were talking about some of these spring leagues. I mean, that's part of the excitement, is that all the stuff is happening really quickly, but It's also, can they finish? Can they cross the finish line and play that championship game in Canton, Ohio? That's part of, I mean, we're hoping, and we talked a little bit about that last week, about the business structure of this league and why it's a good thing that they're not doing so much travel and things like that. So I'm hoping that, I really am hoping that like this league is able to fight on the pitch or on the field and not
going back to the Rowdies.
Sorry, I just recorded. I just recorded soccer. But they can fight on the gridiron. There you go. There's a good there's an American football term, a gridiron, and not in the in the courtroom. So, with all that said, let's move on. We talked about the draft that happened, but Zach, the USFL is set to have a supplemental draft next week, March 10th. That's a Thursday. We usually record on Thursdays, so maybe we'll have to do a day later just so like we can kind of see what happens with the supplemental draft, and then we can talk about it next week. But what do you think? I don't know if you've looked into any of this about supplemental draft, but the USFL, I think, signed around 700 guys, knowing full well that like all those people wouldn't have been drafted. But we have had 2 days of drafting. Teams are, filled in a little bit, but there's still holes in special teams and backups and things like that. And that's kind of where I see the supplemental draft fitting in. What are you looking for in the supplemental draft? And maybe considering with the Bandits, is there maybe some extra guys or at least positional that you're looking at them to add to this team?
So, this is kind of my issue with the drafts they have, is they haven't really. It'd be nice for them to release a list and be like, these are the guys we got, So for me, the supplemental, the reason I'm most excited about it is to see who the hell is even in the list, because up until draft day, we had no idea who was in the list for the original draft. So once I think news broke like the day before the draft that like the quarterbacks that were going to be there, and it's only because they were traveling to be with the teams. But aside from that, it was kind of like we didn't know what was going on. So I think the supplemental draft, I would like to see. There's a few YouTubers. I know that sounds weird, but like that have played college football, and one of them, some of you guys may know listening because he played for UCF. Destroying is his YouTube name. I think it's Oscar.
Yeah, he's a kicker or punter.
Yeah, kicker, punter.
Yeah,
most athletic dudes I've ever seen in my life.
Impressive for sure.
Yeah, and so like I would love to see a big name like that come in. I think that would be something interesting. And he is kind of local. So
some of these teams don't have kickers or punters. They passed on those, thinking, okay, we'll just go get whoever. So yeah,
exactly.
You do bring up. That's a really good point, man. That's a really good point.
And then to me, that just is something else that doesn't necessarily bring maybe not profit right away to the league, but it's something that brings definitely some viewers to the league if anyone follows some of these YouTubers, because some of them have millions of followers. So I think that would have been something that's why I would have liked to know would have liked to have known who was in the draft pool. So we could have seen all of that. I think it would have been something maybe more people would have paid attention to it. So I think that's kind of what I'm forward to this one, is maybe they'll release it'll get leaked or something.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, I think that also if they released the names, because I agree with you. I wish, just from our perspective of trying to cover this league, that would have helped out immensely. I even reached out to the little contacts that I have in the college world and lower division colleges, and I'm just trying to see is there any news who is available, and even they were like, hey guy, we don't know. Some agents had posted publicly about, hey, my player is in the draft pool, but I mean maybe there's a little bit of embarrassment, if they said here are the 700 guys and all those guys that don't get drafted. It's kind of you didn't even make it in the USFL.
Yeah, no.
There's that, but then also some players literally that are good There is another spring league that's supposed to happen next year. That's the 2.0 X or the 3.0 at this point XFL, owned by The Rock. But so there's going to be, if this league does last on for another year, now we've got 2 competing spring leagues that maybe there's guys that don't want to play in the USFL because they want to play in the XFL for whatever reason has been told to them that there's an advantage to do that. And who knows? I mean, we that is like in the background. That is something that's happening. Is there's going to be a competing spring league, hopefully in next year.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
So there's guys that are going to make it or not make it in this league, and they maybe don't want to be under contract. Who knows? What I do know is the USFL has announced that they will have a combine, a quote-unquote combine of their own from March 19th to 20th. Adam Schefter was the one who I saw first that put this out on Twitter. But to me, it seems a little bit more like a free agent combine rather than like draft hopefuls, because we've already seen a draft. We've already seen 2 drafts, and we're going to have a supplemental draft. So I think that as the word has spread, I have seen other former players that have posted like, hey, wow, what's this USFL thing? Like, they haven't been contacted about it before. And they're like, yeah, I'd play in the USFL. And it's guys who've played college football before. So I think there's a whole, outside of the 700 guys that they did put together, there's probably another list of hundreds and hundreds of other people that they either didn't contact or weren't interested in the beginning, but now they are, or maybe they were holding out for the XFL, but now they're like, okay, this is going to be on Fox, let's do this. There's a lot of reasons why they might want to get on there. So I think it's a good chance for some of these guys who might have been late to the party to hop on. And maybe if there are still people that are from that initial draft pool that you and I don't know what the full list is, it might give them another shot if they weren't able to be drafted from the 2 drafts that would have happened by then. I've said a lot here, so Zach, I'm gonna mute myself and give you the floor. Like with a combine and a supplemental draft, like what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so the supplemental draft, like, just to kind of my overall view of it, like, it's awesome. Some teams need more people. I completely agree with that being the case. But it's almost like, why would you do the draft before the combine? It just, to me, doesn't make any sense. Like, logically, if we would have seen a group of guys at a combine, maybe Jordan Teamu would have went first. Like, who knows? I'm glad he didn't, but who knows, So it's one of those things where the timing of it doesn't really make sense to me, but it's cool to see other people. We talked about this in the first episode. Again, if you haven't watched it, go check it out, or haven't listened, go check it out. But I felt like this was just so unknown, which there's like, I guess a certain allure to that. Like, oh, now I want to pay attention because I don't know what the hell is going on. But to me, it would have made more sense to have the combine, have the draft, then have a supplemental draft like every other successful league does. But, I mean, it's something that if it works, it works. That's why I'm not rich. It's not why I'm not a rich millionaire, I guess.
Well, the XFL did something like that in the last iteration of it. They had these like free agent. They were kind of like pro days, but they were also like scrimmages, and the coaches were able to go and look at the players playing against each other, with each other, getting coached, like getting instruction, and they were getting feedback like, okay, this guy's cool. And they did that in a few different cities before they had their inaugural draft. This was, like you said, it was just kind of like shrouded in mystery. Like, oh, Paxton Lynch got drafted. Like, oh,
exactly.
Okay, all right. Hey, a kicker who was in the MLS got drafted. Like, oh wow. Like, okay. There were dudes who had literally just got released from CFL camps the week before the draft that got drafted. It's like, okay, all right, hey, I didn't know he was even available. So maybe there was a little bit of that. There was timing in other leagues, and who knows. But with all that said, it's going to be exciting to see who they bring in, and inevitably, until we have those first games and we know this is the team, this is our opponent, here's who they are, it's still going to be a little bit of mystery. They are throwing this together, it seems, a little haphazardly, but there are the right people. I mean, you have guys like Daryl Johnston, who was around for the XFL, to put that together really quickly. You have a lot of these head coaches are very experienced. It's not like I guess that's the one thing I guess we didn't talk about last time is we didn't go in depth on all the other head coaches in the league, but you have Jeff Fisher, you have Todd Haley for the Bandits, you have guys outside of them that have NFL experience, so they know what it's like to put together a locker room and at least like how to conduct themselves in a training camp and practice. So it might be a little ugly, but I think that inevitably it's going to be just fine. So part of that is the level of play. And Zach, you had a really good idea. You brought up, let's look at, we talked about our players. We talked about the Bandits for so long last week. Let's talk about some of the players that play for other teams and kind of, not like a super deep dive or anything, but just as again, as someone who might not know a lot about the United States Football League and might not know about some of these players, we picked 8 different players from all the teams in the league. And Zach, I thought that was a good idea. So let's have you start, man. Let's have you talk about your first guy that you want to bring up from another team, an opponent that the Bandits are going to have to play.
Yeah, so as much as I am a Bandits fan through and through.
Let's go.
I would like to point that out.
Let's go.
I thought it would be cool because, like you said, we did go into a deep dive about all the other players, and then, we can go into a deep dive on all of our players, but like you said, we have a whole nother draft next week. We have a whole combine, so I figure maybe we wait off on going over our players right away because who knows? We might have 5 new players next week.
It's true.
We never know.
It's true.
So I went ahead and my first one last week, I think it's the first time I've ever spoke on air about my college team. I am an Oregon State fan. Don't hate on me too much. I know we suck. But the first guy I saw is he's now a Birmingham Stallion. His name is Victor Bolden Jr.
Okay.
One of the most electrifying college players I've ever seen play in my life. With that being said, I'll go over a little bit of his college stuff, and then we'll get into more of his NFL stuff because he's one of those guys that you could not find very much recruiting stuff on him. But at Oregon State, he started 36 games for us, finished his college career, ranked 6th in Oregon State history with 170 receptions, 9th receiving yards with 1,863, and tied for 9th with 6 100-yard receiving games. He also ranks 3rd all time. God, I can't speak. I apologize, guys. Ranks 3rd all time at Oregon State with 5,196 career all-purpose yards. So to kind of go into that, this man played wide receiver, running back, and returned punts and kicks. So in 3 years as a starter and as a full-time player, he had 5,196 all-purpose yards. Set OSU records for kickoff returns, and one of the few Oregon State players that gets invited to the combine. Like, there's not very many of them that show up in the NFL. So combine, he participated in it. Obviously, it didn't go too well. He didn't get drafted, but he signed with the 49ers right out of the draft. I would say he played, but he played special teams. Again, kind of what he's good at. He's very fast, very elusive. So he had 1 reception in the NFL for 10 yards and 505 return yards, though. So over 2 seasons as a returner, that's not terrible. And I think that's going to be something that we need to watch out for in Tampa, because if he does play wide receiver, he's one of the faster guys in the league. Off the ball speed, not necessarily in a 40 time, but off the ball speed, he's very quick.
Now, do you think he's going to be like a wide receiver, or are they bringing him in for his like return ability?
So now here's the issue there. I think he could be a wide receiver, but he's 5'8". So he's 5'8", 178 pounds.
Okay.
I don't see him being a number one receiver for Birmingham. But I see him being, and we talked about this again last week, for our coach being kind of an innovator maybe. He's going to be a gadget player, I think. And definitely their returner. Anything that involves running really, really quick kind of a deal, it's going to be what he does. So I could see him playing receiver, running back, and returner. And who knows at that point what could happen. But if he's in the lineup, I foresee him being their deep threat, because he's not catching balls over the middle, going over guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the first guy I want to bring up, you had really brought it up about, like, hey, if there was a combine, the Bandits picked number 2 in the draft in the quarterback round, and the guy they picked might have been different if Jordan Ta'amu, was able to set up in front of coaches and throw. We're just kind of going off game film and things like that. But Jordan Ta'amu, our quarterback of the Bandits, went number 2. The guy that went number 1 for the Michigan Panthers was Shea Patterson. And that might not be a household name for a lot of people, but we're trusting in Jeff Fisher to be the coach here, who passed. Literally, Jordan Ta'amu's the first player to get passed on in the USFL. Jeff Fisher deciding he wants to go with Shea Patterson, bringing a guy who played at Michigan to the Michigan Panthers. Shea's a 6'1", 212-pound quarterback, drafted, as a guy. I don't know if they were just trying to go with the local. I don't know what he specifically does better than. I'll get into that in a minute, but just looking at him versus Jordan Ta'amu, who has, we talked about this last week, he has experience at this level, like in spring league. He's demonstrated that Jordan Ta'amu has demonstrated that he is better than the average at this kind of like not college but not the NFL level. That's kind of where we're sitting at here. Well, Shea Patterson, I think, is a guy who has to prove himself completely. Shea Patterson was a number 1 prospect in high school. He was fought for a lot until and Ole Miss brought him in. He started his career at Mississippi, but Chad Kelly was the starting quarterback there. Chad Kelly went down, and that gave Shea his opportunity to step in and be a starting quarterback there. After there's some ups and downs with Ole Miss. There was some NCAA was going to hand down the hammer.
Scandals.
He transferred to Michigan and eventually went undrafted in 2020. So Shea Patterson is a guy who has never played professional football, but he was an undrafted free agent for Kansas City in the NFL, and then he did sign, but he never played for the Canadian Football League, BC Lions, and the Montreal Alouettes. Looking at Shea, though, again, we haven't seen him against this level of competition, which is going to be the creme de la creme, the best of like the people that didn't make, the guys that are hovering between the NFL and these like top level college programs. Shea's a small, 6'1" for a quarterback's a little small, but he's energetic, who has shown moments of greatness. He can improvise on the fly. From what I've seen, I believe that he can read defenses enough to make quick decisions in progressions, but he's not the prototypical quarterback. So he kind of, I think he's had to like build this skill. He is mobile. He's gutsy. Let's be honest here. He's willing to take hits.
He's willing to take hits to finish the throw when pressured, and he's been on the run a lot. But when you're 6'1", you might have to play a little bit more bootleg. You might have to do more things to get away from these tall defensive linemen and stunting linebackers. And he can throw on the run for sure. Where I think the negatives lie with him is he's not very strong. Again, he's not very tall. He's not very strong, and he's not very accurate. Sometimes he throws a quacking duck at people, and he isn't as good in the pocket as he has been in like an RPO or a bootleg or on the run. He's demonstrated that when he's on the run, he's okay, but in terms of sit him in the pocket, keep you in there for a 5-step drop, trying to get a deep progression into like a deep go route or something like that. It hasn't materialized for me anyway. And some other scouts have said he has a tell. He kind of pats the ball before he throws it. Now, if people know you have a tell, you can, maybe Jeff Fisher can tell him, hey, pat the ball every down. Just pat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you throw it or you hand it off or whatever, like, okay, I don't know. This is where the mind games, the chess play comes in, where it's like, all right, like, if you know you have a tell, do you work that out of that player or do you use it to your advantage? That's the kind of weird. I mean, we're getting deep here, but that's like. Yeah.
But you're not wrong though, and that's kind of the perks of him having Jeff Fisher, someone who's coached in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I'll say about Shea is I just like crap on him here in my scouting report is he doesn't necessarily have good pocket presence. He's gutsy. He'll take that hit, but if he can't sense that the pocket is collapsing, if he can't sense that there's his tackles are breaking down and there's guys rushing on him, that's kind of one of the things why he's not in an NFL camp right now. So there's just stuff to see. Every single one of these players in the United States Football League are going to have buts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a guy that is I see as it's still a big question mark, but there's good potential. There's good pedigree, or at least good coaching behind him. And there's something in him that he went number one. Jeff Fisher had literally any pick he wanted of any of the quarterbacks, and he picked this guy. So we'll
could have
see.
taken Paxton Lynch.
He could have, right? Paxton Lynch isn't even the first Memphis quarterback. Okay, all right. So, sorry.
No, you're good. So you mentioned a quarterback, and it's kind of funny because my next player is actually a quarterback. And one of the pluses I'll give him is you mentioned, Shea Patterson not being the prototypical, quarterback size. Well, Kyle Slaughter of the New Orleans Breakers is prototypical quarterback size. He's coming in at 6'5", 218 pounds. So he's a big boy, and he's one of those guys who has come in with some NFL experience. Before we get into that, again, I'll go over the college stuff. He did actually come in as a 2-star recruit out of college or out of high school. Had offers from Tulane and Southern Miss. And the Tulane offensive coordinator became the coach of Southern Miss, so he ended up going to Southern Miss to start his career before his scholarship was pulled, and he ended up going to Northern Colorado. So you being from Colorado may know a little bit about this guy.
I do.
But one of the things that was cool, one of the cool stats that I saw with him was that he, after his college career, where he played quarterback, wide receiver, returned kicks, and punts. After all of that, he did not get a combine invite. Yep. So he went to the Northern Colorado Pro Day and Colorado State Pro Day. And he did not run great, but he ran a 4.59 40, I believe. So nothing insane, but for good NFL wide receivers are running 4.55s, 4.45. So it's not far off of a wide receiver speed at the NFL level. But the biggest stat that jumped out to me was at the pro day, he registered an arm speed of 58 miles an hour, which was only 1 mile an hour shy of the best clock throwing speed at the combine. Maybe that doesn't translate to anything, but I think that's just a stat that is interesting that you don't see very often for someone that doesn't get an invite to the combine to have numbers that match combine players. But after college, he again was not drafted, but another Denver team went to the Broncos practice squad as an undrafted free agent, then played for teams like the Vikings, the Cardinals, the Lions, the Bears, the Raiders, back to the Vikings, and now is on New Orleans. So he's had a little bit of playing time. He seems to be, and this is kind of opinionated, but it seems to me like he's very good in games that don't matter, as opposed to it's crunch time, because when it's in the preseason, he's phenomenal. He's throwing a great ball. Looks like he could be the next, Patrick Mahomes. Not really, but you get the point. And but then it comes to him being cut, pulled back up, and it just seems like he can't get the job done to be able to stay on an NFL roster. But what excites me so much about him for the USFL is the ability for him to do basically anything he wants on offense. If he wants to run the ball, he can run the ball. He wants to throw the ball, he can throw the ball. You want to run Wildcat, he's the quarterback to have because he can catch a little bubble screen if he needs to. So I know I went over Victor Bolden being a gadget player, and it's weird to say a quarterback could be a gadget player, but I truly feel that he could be one of those guys with the speed that he has, the experience at other positions, that he could be one of those gadget guys.
Yeah, Kyle definitely was, as a Denver Bronco fan. He was one of these guys who's like a preseason legend, and he's one of these guys that like John Elway looks at and goes, "You're 6'5", and you have a cannon for an arm." You brought up that Patrick Mahomes, he really does, like, to some people, he looks like a more athletic version of Patrick Mahomes, and that's like, what? Are you kidding me? But in reality, yeah, he looks more like Mitchell Trubisky, right? So, and not even as good as him, but kind of like
exactly,
kind of like he's been working on a quick release. He's got, he doesn't have really good downfield accuracy, and that's for as much of a cannon as he has for an arm, and as mobile as he is, he never really put it together. I mean, raw. That was really the word that people used with Kyle.
Yeah.
Like raw. Now that he's gone through the Broncos, the Vikings, the Cardinals, Detroit, the Raiders, Chicago, and back to the Vikings.
Yeah, you hit every single one of those teams. Not in order, but you hit every one of them.
Right. I mean, the Vikings I know for sure, because like the Vikings are probably the one fan base that are as high on him as the Broncos were, 4 or 5 years ago when he was with us. They
might even be higher than, because he spent the most time with Minnesota.
Right. So he's like, I mean, he's a known quantity for Minnesota, and again, it's just like. And that's the USFL, man. For the NFL, I don't know, man. But for this, he has another shot at showing people that he isn't just like a Taysom Hill, like, because that's kind of that's how I think he's going to be employed in the USFL, is exactly what you said. If you want to run weird RPO, if you run Wildcat, design draws, if you want to run quarterback, weird stuff, but then also have the threat of the pass, I think that's where Kyle Sloter's going to be employed here. So that's a name that I haven't thought of in a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a Bronco fan, but I remember him, man. I mean, he was a UNC guy, and the Big Sky is kind of. We'll have a guest on to this show that'll talk about some of these smaller schools in the future, but. The Big Sky is a gym for, like, unknown guys, and they're a little thing, but man, Northern Colorado is a beast, and the Big Sky is a really good conference for a lot of these guys that are unheralded, and they play really good football. So So I'm just excited to see Kyle Sloter like get his shot, man, and that excites me. But moving to a different team that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the New Jersey Generals. They are coached by a two-time Canadian Football League Grey Cup champion, two-time champion, Mike Riley, and they drafted another quarterback that like is unknown to a lot of people, Ben Holmes. And so with that, we talked about Sloter, we talked about Shea Patterson. With some of these unknown quantities at quarterback, I believe that the running game is going to be heavily featured in New Jersey. So I wanted to talk about two players. I'm going to skip the line here, and I'm going to talk about two guys.
Send it.
I'm going to talk about two guys that are on New Jersey, and it's two running backs that they focused their draft on. And they went with Mike Weber from Ohio State. And Mike Weber's a guy who was drafted in the 7th round of the 2019 draft by the Dallas Cowboys. He spent time with the Cowboys. He spent time with the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Giants. And I believe that Mike's going to be their featured back. Here's a guy who's gone over 1,000 yards in college. He's demonstrated at one point in his career 4.4 speed as a running back. And unfortunately, he is dealing with a hip injury last year. But Mike Weber's a guy who has shown that he can rack up the yardage. He can be given the ball as a workhorse, and he's going to be a menace. I mean, you got a guy who just is ridiculously fast, and our defense, like the Bandits' defense, is built around speed. We went into that in depth, but a lot of speed, a lot of agility on our team, and you're going to need every single bit of that to capture a Mike Weber. Conversely, they also drafted Trey Williams, who played for Mike Riley in the AAF with the San Antonio Commanders. But Trey Williams, if you're a Spring League fan and you're joining us because you're into the USFL, you probably know Trey Williams because he's played in almost every acronym you can think of. He was in the NFL. He played for Washington, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Dallas in the NFL. He was in the AAF, like I said, but he was also in the XFL for the Seattle Dragons. So Trey Williams is a guy that really interests me. While I think Mike Weber is going to be your every down like workhorse, Trey Williams is a guy that you can bring in as a change of pace guy or if I get into his strengths, he's got a phenomenal jump cut. If he gets into open space, he can make people miss like really, really, really well. He has the ability to see the play develop and pivot and figure out, okay, if I just make this one cut, boom, here we go. He's known for busting out long runs. And on top of that, you talked about one guy that could be a game changer. Trey Williams is a guy that I think is going to be an impactful player on the kick return for the Generals. I guess his knocks, though, he's not a big guy. Okay, he's not a huge dude. He's not the workhorse. He's a Sproles, like a Darren Sproles type, secret weapon, bust out the weird trick play or have him out of the backfield, kind of running back, right? He's I guess for Tampa fans, he's kind of like Giovanni Bernard, where they used him in passing situations. They tried to work the ball to him on screens. They weren't really just handing it on like a run up the two gap, like boom. Like it wasn't wasn't his
a James White.
Yeah, he wasn't like power ISO guy. Yeah. That's not what Trey Williams is going to do. If I had to pick some more things, I would say that he's really not used to that kind of playbook either. He's not used to being in like under center eye back formation. He's used to being in like a spread open type scene. So we'll see what kind of offense that Mike Riley wants to run in the USFL. But he's got a guy that's really elusive. However, he can't really break tackles once they grab him. So it's kind of like, if you can catch him because he's elusive and quick, if you can get a hand on him, you're gonna bring him down. But if you on a weak side though, like all you got to do is snag him and he'll go down. He's also, because of his size, he's not a very like prototypical run blocking running back. So if I'm a defense and I see that Trey Williams is in, I'm thinking, hey, it's a screen, it's a toss, it's some kind of play that we need to worry about, kind of outside the tackles. That's kind of what I saw out of these two running backs, which, like I said, you're going to have a hammer in Mike Weber, and you're going to have a finesse player in Trey Williams.
So, and I apologize, you guys, for how often I'm going to mention anytime someone was an Oregon State person.
I get it.
But Mike Riley also had 3 separate stints as 2 stints as a head coach, one from 03 to 14,
Okay.
and then one back in the 90s, and then was also a consultant for us back in 18.
Okay.
I would not be surprised to see them run a 2-back set more often than not as a coach for them.
Yeah, let me know. So what I've said, because this is good. We haven't talked about this. So with your intimate knowledge of Mike Riley, like, are they going to put both these guys on the field at one time, like, to kind of, you don't know where you're going to game plan, because, like, are they going to give it to Weber up the hole, or are they going to do a weird thing with Williams on the side? Like, you let me know.
So I would, if I had to put money on it, I would just be ready to see them run, like I said, a 2-back set. They'll both be in the game at the same time. He didn't necessarily do that all the time at Oregon State, but it was known for him to run 2-backs, and that's why our running backs don't necessarily have the greatest stats coming out of the NFL or into the NFL, because he's just not that kind of a coach.
You're splitting carries, or you're splitting up
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to your guy, because I did skip ahead and I did 2 guys on one thing.
How dare you?
I know, and I'm probably going to do it one more time.
That's fine.
But before we get into that, I do want to say that, like, thank you so much. You've been listening this far. If there's one thing you could do for us, hit in the description there's a link, and that goes right to our shop. We are shop.rblrsports.com. We've got t-shirts that celebrate all of the Tampa Bay teams here. If you're a fan of the Lightning or the Rays or the Bucks, we have shirts that are inspired by our local teams. If you head there, if you hit the promo code BANDITBALL, 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 you're going to get 10% off of your order. I just did kind of a controversial Lightning t-shirt. It says
scandalous
with a P. Okay, it says puck around and find out. We just put that up in different colors. There's blue, there's black, there's white. It says puck around and find out. I've gotten some feedback. Some are into it, some are not into the thing. Well, you decide if you like it. If you hit the promo code BANDITBALL, you're going to get 10% off your order. And again, that link is in the description. Zach, who's your next guy that you want to talk about?
My next guy, if you are here just as a Tampa Bandit fan, which is what the show is about, but obviously you want everyone to listen, because why not? You might actually know about this guy because he is a former USF Bull. Mr. Mozzie Wilkins, great NFL career, 3 tackles.
It's 3 more. It's 3 more than most
3 more
of the guys.
than us.
Buddy.
Yep, 3 more than us. So he was a 2-year starter. He played all 4 years at USF. He did redshirt his freshman year, but he was a 2-year starter with 47 career games played, and 22 of those games were starts. He finished his career at USF. Sorry, I'm a UCF guy because I'm from Orlando, but he finished his USF career.
Bulls.
I know. But he finished his USF. Go Bulls.
Oh, okay, all right, sure, buddy. I don't believe you,
finished
dude.
his career. I wouldn't either. Like I said, I'm an Oregon State fan. I just got to pick a Florida team to root for. But he finished his career with 22 passes defended, with 3 of those 22 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 19 pass breakups. So that's how that breaks down. 2 tackles for a loss, half of a sack, 1 fumble recovery, and 110 total tackles. And was actually invited to play at the 2019 East-West Shrine game, which is, a pretty big deal. As far as his NFL career went, and I'll get into more of kind of what I think makes him his weaknesses, is that he was not drafted, but signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, go Bucs. Yep. The second best football team in Tampa Bay now, next to the Bandits. So he signed with the Bucs, drafted free agent in 2019, and has been on since then. He played for the Bucs 19 to 20, another spring league, if I'm not mistaken, TSL Alpha in 2021.
Yep.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Cardinals, Ravens, and now the Philadelphia Stars. So my concerns with him is in 47 starts, he only had 3 interceptions. So not someone that I'm thinking is very much in cornerback terms or in defensive terms, a ball hawk.
Okay.
But he is one of those guys that if he gets his hands on you, odds are he's tackling you. So he appears to be anyway a sure tackler and someone that can make good plays on defense, but don't expect 10 interceptions from him in a 12-game season, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know that I'd say anything necessarily bad from him aside from that, but as a corner, he's your typical corner size, 6 foot, 191 pounds. He does what he has to do to get the job done, but he's not going to get you the interceptions. And I could be way wrong. Watch him come into the USFL and have 13 interceptions in 12 games and just become this all-star player. But from what I'm gathering in the research that I've done is he's not that kind of guy.
Yeah, this is, again, one of the things of the USFL. We'll see what he's done to mature himself. I think the one thing that even Mozzie will tell you is, like, when he was at USF, I don't think he really took it seriously in terms of the film and the study and the thing, because that's the difference between. I've seen literal scouting things where as a D back or as a safety, you're gonna do things like you're looking on one side of the field, but you've seen so much tape on this quarterback that if you're looking to the left, he's gonna throw it to the right, and so you literally look to the left. 1,000, 2,000, and then turn around and start running to the right side of the field, and you make a pick because the quarterback never knew you were even there because he thought, oh, he's focused over here, he's not going to be in this spot, and that's all game film. That has nothing to do with, I guess you need the speed to cover the ground, but if you have, like Mozzie, he has raw athleticism. We already know that. He's a good hitter. He's a big hitter, but was he going to do the work in during the week and in the film room? And so that's the big thing. If he can get that little bit down, and maybe he's learned that through all these training camps and practice squads and things that he's been in different leagues. So maybe he will be a success story. I mean, I hope when he plays the Bandits that he sucks and we burn him. But for all the other weeks of the year, as a former USF player, this is a guy that we all have high hopes for, and we're very proud that he's one of the, I believe, 2 USF people that were drafted in the USFL. So, as a Bull myself, I'm very proud, and he was here. Unfortunately, there's one play that he's most known for, and that is, unfortunately, he was the guy who tackled Mckenzie Milton and kind of ended Mckenzie Milton's, potential NFL career.
Yeah, it definitely ended his UCF career.
I was there, and it sucked the air out of the stadium for sure. Thankfully, Tampa General's not too far away, and he was able to get immediate, exactly what he needed. I guess the Tampa General's like, we do the best at that hospital for whatever Mckenzie Milton needed. But that hit kind of overshadowed his career, and I don't think he wants to be known for that hit, but he was attributed to it. So we'll see. We'll see how it works for Mozzie. Obviously I'm a big Bulls fan, and now I only have 2 players in the USFL to really keep tabs on so we'll see. I hope he does really, really well, unless he plays
every
Bandits.
week, but against Tampa.
Yeah, I hope he sucks when he plays the Bandits.
I agree 100%.
The last 2 guys. Well, I was gonna say, I did it again. The last team that I think we haven't talked about. You still have one more guy, but
yeah.
The last team that I have is the Pittsburgh Maulers. We have not talked about them yet. We talked a lot about their jerseys and their
second best jerseys in the league,
and how they look like the Apollos, and they're like the one team that isn't red in this league, but. The Pittsburgh Maulers are led by former Steelers running back coach Kirby Wilson, and these are 2 guys that I put together because you mentioned the Alphas. Mozzie played for the Alphas. 2 guys that played together in the quote-unquote in the spring league are still together on the front line of the Pittsburgh Maulers, and that's Nasir Player and Eric Osawa. These are 2 guys who were on the same team at the same time last year, and now they're going to play with each other, play alongside each other, I should say, in the United States Football League. So Nasir Player is a dude who Tampa Bay fans might know really well. He was an undrafted free agent signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. He's a 3-time All-Southern Conference player coming out of East Tennessee State. He's a 6'4", 261-pound guy with a very high motor who can carry blockers into the backfield. He even has decent hands. He can catch deflected passes, and he's shown discipline too. That like, if he breaks through the line on a draw or a screen, I've seen him multiple times be able to stop, recognize the play, readjust, and make a tackle for a loss. And that's huge. I mean, that is huge because they drafted him as an edge player. So if he's playing that outside linebacker, edge rusher, that's one at this level. That's one thing I'm going to want to exploit. There's going to be a lot of dudes who are really quick and can get to the quarterback. But at this level, like if they can't read a play, if they don't know what's going on, if they can be easily tricked or game planned around, that's exactly who I'm going to be. I'm going to be throwing on your side of the field every time. Well, this is a guy who has shown that he can get his hands up, he can intercept passes, he can stay at home, he can if you try to put your best dude on him or even double team him, he's got a very high motor. The flip side of him, though, his but, I guess, in this is that he doesn't have explosive, like, just next level NFL type speed. That was maybe his one block. I mean, he will fight, he will claw, he will do everything he can, but he isn't exactly the fastest guy on the edge. And that's my really one knock on him is that I liked him, and he's a reason he's one of the number 1 guys that they drafted on that defense. But at the NFL level, I just don't think he had the speed to cut it in that league. But that's 99% of people that ever play football, so that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing for him as an athlete, but it's a reason he's here at the USFL and not in the NFL. The other guy that I was going to bring up before I want to hear your thoughts on this is Eric Osawa, who is alongside him as an edge rusher. Another guy, 6'2", 240, coming out of Western Michigan, who was a undrafted free agent for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2019. If there's one thing I want to say about Eric, it's that he is a very confident player. In an interview, he has said that he said that he is a quote once in a lifetime player, and that if he didn't believe that he wouldn't be grinding to get to the NFL, and he wouldn't be grinding to even be like in the USFL. So, look, you gotta have confidence, man. Don't get me wrong, man. If that was Antonio Brown or Terrell Owens or something like that, we would say, yeah, you need that. Maybe you're gassing yourself up, but
I love me some me.
I love me some me. I love me some me. But I think getting cut from the Raiders kind of ignited a fire in him, and he's one of these guys in the USFL that they have a goal. There's a stated goal that they don't want to be in the USFL. I don't think this guy wants to be the number one ranked Pittsburgh Maulers D edge. Like, he wants to be. I mean, no offense, right? But I think that's part of this league, is that these are guys who want to show they can make it in the next level. And here's a guy. Killer explosiveness. For everything that I said about Nasir, player, Oswa has explosive, just launches off the line. He has a pro day. He had a 4.2 20-yard shuttle, which in 2019 would have been like top 5 speed in the draft for that position.
That's crazy.
He can, like, just looking at the tape, this dude can cut through double teams with really good swim moves. He's shown really good discipline against counters and RPOs. And again, I was saying, you want to maybe exploit speed off the edge. You want to exploit aggressiveness. You want to, maybe there's the things you can do. Yeah, well, if this guy is faster than you and has good discipline, it's a reason that the Raiders brought him in. It's a reason that he thinks he can still make it. And I've seen on tape that he's going to be a problem if he can narrow down. I really didn't pinpoint a specific but right. Like, I don't know. Maybe he's a little undersized. He's not the tallest guy. He's not the biggest guy. He's got a lot of speed, but I just don't know what it is that another team hasn't looked for in him so far in the NFL to give him a shot. Maybe it's just there's just a lot of edge rushers that are in the NFL these days. Like, they're specifically pinpointing this kind of athlete, and so maybe he's just not world-class level of that athlete, and that's what it takes to be one of the the 32 teams in the NFL. So. Because, I mean, this is a dude who's even quick enough, I've seen on tape, that he can even defend running backs, let alone drop him into coverage against tight ends. He sometimes gets spied on, put as a spy against running backs. So, again, very, very next level speed for Eric Osawa, but we'll see what he can do to show that he's a once-in-a-lifetime player. So, I cheated again. I had 2 guys. That's it. Those are my last guys that I have.
No, so
Zach, it's all you, man.
So I kind of, to go on your thing, if I'm not mistaken, I heard you say that the coach for the Maulers was an ex-Pittsburgh coach, the Steelers.
That's correct.
So I feel like it's kind of important to note that on top of what they're doing as far as like their talent level, the Steelers are always kind of known for having, up until very recently, very good defenses, and especially, guys like James Harrison, like very good edge guys and people that can rush. So it might benefit them a lot more than, most players to be in a system that's run by an ex-Pittsburgh guy that can maybe show them, this is what we did with, again, I'm going to say his name again, James Harrison. Like, this is how he got so good. Or, along those lines, maybe that helps them out and maybe gets them the shot they need to be in the NFL.
At least on the other side, Kirby Wilson was a running back coach, but you do see what it takes. I mean, you see your own team more than you see in anybody else. So even in scout teams and things like that, like, you're at least, I would hope by osmosis, you're kind of seeing, like, And here's the other thing too, is like we talked about the player pool. We don't even know who the assistant coaches are in this league
exactly,
right now. So,
exactly.
But who's your last guy? Who's your guy you had?
Okay, so my last guy.
Talked. It's your turn. Sorry.
My last guy. This one will be kind of quick. This one's going to be a little bit more opinionated than the other ones, I think, because I'm kind of referring to the last episode again. My dad, diehard New England Patriots fan. So I obviously get stuck watching a lot of New England Patriots stuff. But Isaiah Zuber, another one of those guys in the preseason, so good. But he started his career off at Kansas State. Again, one of the three of the four guys that I've gone over have all redshirted their freshman year, so no crazy like 5-star recruits on my end. But began his college career off at Kansas State. In 4 years there, counting his redshirt year, he had 141 receptions, 1,532 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Then he transferred to Mississippi State, and I think we got more of the real Isaiah Zuber there, where he had 14 receptions for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he's one of those guys, and it's a New England Patriots stat where they're one of the teams that have always had at least one undrafted free agent make the initial 53-man roster. And it's some crazy amount. Like, I think it's been almost since Bill Belichick has been their coach, they have had at least one undrafted free agent make the roster. And Isaiah Zuber was one of those guys back in 2020. He was signed by them, and he even had a few opportunities to play. That amounted to 2 receptions for 29 yards. But with that being said, he is one of those guys. He's not gonna burn you down the field. He's not gonna do some crazy 4.2 speed. But he seems to be able to. I don't want to say like his body, but it seems to be like if the ball comes his way, he can catch it. Which is strange to me because he's 6 foot tall. He's not DK Metcalf. He's not anything like that. But he's one of those guys that I think perfect as a slot receiver, and has shown that he can do that as far as in the preseason and even in the little bit of time that he was on the active roster for New England. But it's just someone that has, I think, all the potential in the world and just can't open up that level that he has to do. So that's why I'm excited for him playing for the Houston Gamblers, is that he's going to get that opportunity, I think, to be able to show, again, what he's maybe matured in and what he's going to be able to do at the next level. Because I think he's one of the guys that has a good shot at making that next level again.
All right, yeah. Like if you, if there was a comp, is there a player comp you have of him? Maybe someone that we have heard of that he's very similar to.
I'm trying to.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. So the best. I want to say I don't think he's as tall as Jacoby, and this is going to be another New England player.
Okay.
He's not as tall as Jacoby Myers, but I feel like he can kind of play that role. The only difference is that Jacoby Myers plays outside, and Isaiah Zuber, I think, more fit for inside. So I don't want to compare him to like maybe a Danny Amendola. Again, someone that plays slot but can get down the field if he has to.
Okay.
Chris Hogan, maybe, like something. I know I just named all Patriots players, but let's go with a Tampa player. Maybe I'm not even gonna lie. I can't even think of anyone you compare to Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Scooter Miller is the closest thing.
Yeah,
to that
Scotty Miller's not,
but he's really like fast,
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the only issue that I'm having there. Maybe Adam Humphries.
Okay.
When he played for Tampa, along those lines, like I don't think he's gonna ever be in the NFL and be the leading receiver on an NFL team. Like he's never gonna be a number 1 guy. Yeah. But I could see him being a number 3, 400, 500 yard a season guy.
Okay.
Who comes in and can perform, but doesn't have to be, I'll compare him to, like, as far as playing wise, an Isaiah Mckenzie for the Buffalo Bills, where they have Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
But Isaiah Mckenzie comes in, and the playoffs can have a 4-touchdown game, So something along those lines, to where he'll be a 3 or a 4 guy, and will have the ability to make plays, but doesn't have to every down like Stephon Diggs would have to do.
Oh man, I love it. I'm getting excited because we just spent an hour talking about other people that are on other teams.
Oh my god, yeah.
and how they relate to the Bandits and all this stuff. So this was a really good primer on a few guys on every team that isn't the Bandits, because we are going to spend the next month and a half diving deep from now on. It's all about the Bandits players. So we give you a little taste of kind of what's out there in the league outside of the Bandits, because the team is shaping up. All this stuff is about to happen. But I want to say one more time, thank you. Thank you for listening to this. If you got this far, you are the true blue, dyed-in-the-wool believer, baby. Thank you so much for lasting this long. I'm going to ask you for one more thing. We are on social media at RBLR Bandits. That is part of the RBLR Sports Network, and you can follow RBLR Sports on every single social media platform. We are at RBLR Sports, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. And again, wherever you're listening to this, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, hit that subscribe button. Give us that 5-star review. That I think that we've worked really hard to give you a 5-star podcast. Zack here is just like I'm gonna fire him if you don't give him a 5-star review. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. That's not true.
Wait, you're paying me for this?
Yeah, the 1 penny. You're getting 1 penny, sir. No, yes. But that beer you're drinking, where do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but all jokes aside, guys, we try to have fun. We do this for the love, for the passion, and please, it's free, and it's the one thing you can do to help us grow, get the algorithm knowing who we are and whatever. We've had really good growth, and you are the key to getting us even further. So with all that begging aside, Zack, man, I'm gonna give you the Zack, man. I'm gonna give you the final word. It's all on you, big guy. Get us out of here, and let's go Bandits.
Yeah, something just to touch on that Yurika didn't. We also have our own. Obviously, we have RBLR, but we also have our own, Twitters and stuff. And I'm sure it'll be in the description or whatnot. But if it's not, and you want to follow us, get on there and follow us. I'm at Zachary Blaine RBLR, and then Yurika, you are Yurika RBLR, correct?
I am, sir.
Yeah, easy enough. Make sure you spell it with a Y, not like Yurika the regular way.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
But yeah, and I say that because we love to just conversate with you guys and communicate with you guys. If there's anything specific you want to let be known, or you want to just discuss the latest episode, we would love to talk to you guys about that. And again, it gets us out there and lets us know what you guys want to hear. So aside from that, yeah, like you said, go Bandits.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.